Hello there and welcome to this edition of Dirt Talk with Drake York, and I've got sprint car driver Mason Moore on the show. It's good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Today's show will be presented by Tommy Hersted's Vintage Race Cars and MotoWare International. Once again, Mason Moore, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So Mason, how were you introduced to the sport of racing?
Well, we used to go out to Silver Dollar a bunch when I was younger, and my uncle raced out there, and I loved watching Sean Finn, and we just go out there every Friday night, and we heard about these outlaw carts up at Red Bluff and Cycleland, and we decided to go out up to Red Bluff actually to see what it was all about, and I was like, let's just give it a shot, and we did, and next thing you know, we were doing it, every weekend for a long time, and next thing you know, it becomes more of a job than a hobby. So, but yeah, I was just liked it, watched a bunch of it, and decided to get into it.
How old were you when you began in your outlaw kart racing?
I was 7 years old, so I actually probably got the go-kart when I was about 6, maybe 7, but I was actually afraid of it, so I didn't want to race it, and I actually saw a guy catch on fire, and that was it for me. I did not want to race, but luckily enough, we knew a guy who could fabricate something, and we put a shield in between me and the motor, and it made me feel comfortable enough to get back in the car and actually try to race. And that was it from there. I loved it, and I never was afraid again. As soon as I was in a 125, the shield wasn't able to fit between me and the motor, so from then on out, I was cured my fear of the catching on fire.
How long have you been racing?
Well, let's see. Since I started when I was 7, I'm 25 now, so it's a long time. 15, 18 years now. Wow, that seems like a long time. I didn't realize how long that. Basically my whole life.
And now, this week, we debuted a special segment on the show. It's called the Fan Zone Question, where we let the fans ask the driver we have on our show a question. And Mason, this question this week comes from Sheila York. She wanted to ask you, did you ever wash or work on a car as a kid?
In a go-kart, I actually had a Mike Clark. We hired him on after multiple attempts at racing with just my father and a little bit of help from people here and there, and it didn't work out. Stuff would fall off, motors wouldn't run, and there was one night where I basically destroyed a race car, and my mom's like, you need to get somebody to work on this race car or we're not racing again because you're putting him in danger. So I never really got the opportunity to work on a car because my father wasn't exactly the type to work on a race car himself. I basically had to learn on my own, but I really didn't learn as much in the go-karts as I wanted to, but I learned a lot more once I got into sprint cars. And when I took my own team on with my father's sprint car team, I was way more involved with washing and working on it weekly, and I still do that today.
Okay, Mason, you were talking about how you went to Silver Dollar Speedway as a kid. Who did you look up to when you went to the racetrack?
Definitely one of my favorites was Sean Finn. I don't know what it was, but he had that green 36 car, and my dad was buddies with him, and we actually bought our first sprint car from him way back when Tony Souza drove for us. But yeah, definitely looked up to Sean Finn, and when the Outlaws came to town, I definitely looked up to Jack Honshield. Jack Honshield, he was definitely my favorite outlaw driver. Just the way he drove, obviously he's always going 120% the whole time, and but yeah, definitely Jack Honshield and Sean Finn were two of my favorites.
You raced at Cycleland Speedway. You were talking about that. How big of an impact did Cycling Speedway have on your racing career?
I definitely think it shaped my racing career. Cycling builds drivers. The way Lowell prepares that racetrack to either you got to run the bottom or you got to run the top, or you can throw sliders or whatnot, and that just shapes you into being a driver that can go forward on a racetrack. You don't want a racetrack where you just gotta fall around like right to the middle or whatnot. And it just gave you an opportunity to enhance your driving capabilities just because of how technical it was. You either had to be really patient around the top, or you had to hold it wide open right around the cushion. And obviously there'll be different nights where, just like any racetrack, where the track conditions will be different, and it really shaped you into a driver to where you can be well balanced and can tackle anything that happened throughout the night.
The Outlaw Kart Showcase with Kyle Larson Parker Store that debuted last year. You were a part of that. What was it like returning to Cycling and Speedway?
Yeah, all my buddies, especially Kyle and Colby and Brian and Shane, and I grew up with all those guys, and they wanted me to get back in a go-kart, and I said, you guys, I hurt my back. There's just no way I can do it, and they're just so bumpy, and there's no suspension, and it just would hurt my back, too much. And when Kyle presented this race, I'm like, you know what? I always said if I was going to get back, it was going to be at Cycling. No way it was going to be a Revlon. And I said, this is just a perfect opportunity. I pretty much have to. So it worked out to where I called Shane, and Shane hooked me up with Bo Perkins, and Bo lent me a car, and luckily enough, it all worked out to where I was able to get back in a car. And man, my performance was horrible. It was a lot different from when I was in a go-kart. They were way different. But hopefully maybe I get another shot this year. I just saw that they were signing up, having early sign-ups this month. So hopefully I get another opportunity to find another kart and maybe go try it again this year.
Yeah, actually, if you go on outlawkartshowcase.com, it has everything you need to know about that race. Plus, what I really like about it, has a day counter on it. So last time I checked, it was yesterday. It's really precise. It's like 60 days, 2 hours.
60 days away.
Even the seconds. So
Wow.
It's really precise. That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
So back to you, Mason.
All right.
Your car is on the most popular place at Silver Dollar Speedway, and by that I mean the beer booth, not the racetrack. What is it like to have your car in the beer booth?
Brian Cannon actually works for DBI, which allows us to have Coors Light on our race car. DBI sponsors us, and it's really cool to have Coors Light as a sponsor because it's well known. A lot of people like the beer Coors Light. Who doesn't? Obviously, you don't know yet because you're a little young, but yeah, it's really cool just because people love that look, and to have it on the beer booth is really cool. Those posters turned out really good, and just that the car look turned out really good this year. Coors Light just looks great on the car, and I like the notoriety of having it be out there. Having my car, like you said, it's popular. Everybody sees it, so. When they see it on the racetrack, they say, hey, that's the car on the beer booth, and hey, that's Mason Moore. So anytime my name's being said, I like that.
Well, you were talking about, before the camera started rolling, about Placerville. You're leading the points down there. So how has your season at Placerville been going so far?
Man, it's been amazing. Alan Bryway and Steve Ficelli have been giving me a great car week in and week out. We started off the first race at Stockton really bad in the X1, and then we started going to Placerville, and things just started clicking really well. We started off quick time, and then we got 2 main event wins. We got 50-point lead, and we're over halfway, so things are looking really good. We've been consistently in the top 5, only one time out of the top 10 all year long. So things are really doing well up in Placerville.
You were talking about the X1 car, the car you run in Placerville. How'd that deal all come about?
Well, my dad started talking to Jeff, the guy who has the Econolumen tune and brake on the car. And he has a buddy, Vince, who brings Geico local office on board. So these guys, they've been sponsoring sprint cars for a couple of years now. And my dad ended up talking to them, and at the same time I was talking to Alan with the F&F racing team, and they needed some help. We needed some help, and luckily all three of us sort of came together, and we were able to cohesively bring a team together, and it just worked out to where all of us sort of needed each other, and we're able to bring something together and put a team together.
you run Silver Dollar Speedway and just like you were talking about Placerville Speedway. How much do you have to adjust between the different track styles with Placerville being so small and then a little bit bigger Silver Dollar Speedway? So how much do you have to adjust your driving style as a driver?
Not only am I driving a different racetrack, but I'm also driving a whole different car. And between Brian Cannon and Alan Bradway, two totally different crew chiefs. So my driving style obviously is the same through each car. So luckily I got good crew chiefs, even though they're totally different. They're really good at trying to find what I like in the race cars. So definitely, obviously, another thing is one's a 410, one's a 360. So you're driving a little bit different there too. But yeah, it definitely is making me, I believe, a better driver, because you're, just like I said, at Cycleland, where you're getting a little bit different things each night, to where you might be pounding the cushion one night, or you might be, putting around the bottom the other. Where Placerville, you might be just right on that cushion, all night long. Where at Chico, it may slick off a bunch where you're just putting around the bottom. So I think it's making me a better driver this year, just because of the different racetracks, different cars, and the different motors I've been racing all year long. So I think it's helping actually. So yeah, I think that's why we've been doing well this year.
I hear you do a radio show on Friday, so could you tell the fans at home a little bit about that radio show and how they might be able to get to hear you talk about racing on the radio?
Yeah, every Friday morning, 8:15, Mike Wessels on the 103.5 The Blaze calls me. He actually wakes me up. It's like my alarm clock. He just calls me up and I answer, "What's up, Mike?" So yeah, every morning, every Friday morning, he called and asked how I did over the weekend. But yeah, it's a nice short little interview, about 5-10 minutes long, and we just talk about what I have coming up this weekend and how the weekend went last weekend.
Sounds pretty interesting. Do you like to do other stuff other than racing?
Yeah, actually, I'm a huge golfer. So I just graduated from college. I just got my business administration degree. So I got a little bit of free time, and so I decided to work, and I wanted to do something that gave me a little bit of free time, but it didn't work out the exact way I wanted to. But I'm working on a golf course, which is giving me access to a golf course, and because I love golfing. I go down to Cabo and we'll golf down there, and anytime I can put a golf club in my hand, I really like to do that. So golfing, obviously racing. Man, I can't really think of anything else besides just golfing and racing. That's pretty much the two things I do.
You were talking about before the camera started rolling that you got a job at the golf course from Dave Ing, and that was a pretty interesting story, isn't it?
Yeah, so I just graduated. I'm not really looking for a job, but trying to find something to do over the summers and kind of have a little spending cash. And I roll up the stage, and I'm thinking, Dave, he works out at the golf course. I roll up the stage and in my car, all strapped in, and I say, hey, Dave, you got any openings at the racetrack or at the golf course? He goes, yeah, actually, I do. And I said, well, I'm looking for a job. And he goes, you're hired. So I went over and talked to him, and there's a couple, signed some papers here and there, and next thing you know, I got a full-time job at the golf course. So I gotta thank Dave for believing in me, even though I never worked a day in my life. So it's been a fun time out there so far.
And then, wow, thinking, I just got a job.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, don't hit the cushion.
Yeah.
Don't hit it too hard.
Okay, so I gotta mention that after you just said that.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I just learned how to operate this mower, and I don't know if anybody's been at Canyon Oaks, but all the tee boxes are on hills, and this mower has no brakes. It's from 1985, and I'm like thinking, I just got up this hill, I just mowed the top of the tee box, and I'm like, man, this thing has blades up in front. I really don't want to go this way because it might ruin the blades. So I'm like, I'm going to go back the way I came, even though it's a little bit steeper. I'll just go sideways, and I want to make sure I don't want to ruin Dave's mower. Sure enough, I'm rolling down the hill, and I turn it just a little bit this way. Well, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. It just had the sprinklers on. The thing loops out from underneath me, and I'm pointed backwards, looking at the big, huge rock that has the number plate, number 7,
Oh.
yardage marker thing, and I'm looking straight at it, and bam, absolutely destroyed this mower. I'm talking. I haven't been working there for a month, and I already destroyed one of his mowers. I felt or I would have felt better destroying one of his race cars. Like I felt horrible. I had to walk back to the shop, go to his mechanic, and say, "Hey, I just destroyed one of your cars." And Dave was busy, and he walks out of the shop, and he sees me, the mechanic, with a tractor and chains, and he goes, "What happened? This isn't good." I'd explained to him, like, I just basically just junked your mower, but luckily enough, Dave, obviously knows, it was a tough deal, and I was learning, and he was actually pretty cool about it.
Oh, wow. Well, I need to recover after that.
Yeah, I know, right?
You were talking about graduating college. How big of an accomplishment was that for you?
It was huge. So it took me forever. I graduated high school in 2009, and I went to Chico State right off the bat. And I went for a year and did poorly. Like, I didn't do very well, and wasn't like extremely happy there. I didn't know if I was ready for Chico State right off the bat. So I took some time off and actually went racing. I was driving for the Harley Van Dyke 5H car. Went racing back east, up north, down south, which was really cool. Was thankful for that opportunity. And then when I came back from racing, I went to Butte College for a while. Kind of got my GE out of the way and decided, what I wanted to do, what kind of major I wanted. And then when I went back to Chico State, I declared my major as a business administration with an option in management. Took me 2 years once I got back to Chico, and I can finally say I've done something my parents haven't done. My parents did not get a degree, so I always wave that thing in my dad's face and say, "Look what I got." And but yeah, definitely a huge accomplishment. That's something that I can always say I've accomplished, and it's just a privilege to be able to go to college. So I'm very happy with my degree.
You have some very big wins. For example, the 2013 Fall Nationals and the inaugural Bill Brownell Memorial. But I'm probably missing out on quite a few other big wins. So, what do you consider your biggest win?
It's really close for me because I won the ASCS national race at Pville or Placerville, the Bullring Nationals. So they were only there twice. I started third, and I passed Gary Wright. Right, it was his last season, and I passed Gary Wright for second, and Tony Bruce Jr. ends up wrecking in the lead, and I led the last 13 laps to win it, and I thought that was awesome. How many people get to pass Gary Wright to win, basically? But then the week after that, I ended up winning at Calistoga for a Civil War race. So Calistoga is just, historic. I mean, it doesn't have to be a Civil War race for it to be a cool win at Calistoga. Any race at Calistoga is, you win is big. So that's a toss-up for me. I really like those two races. Those two stick out a little bit more than the rest of them.
Who is your strongest competitor out on the racetrack at Placerville or Silver Dollar or anywhere else or any other series you've run?
Well, I'm going to say it's going to be Andy. And by Andy, I mean Andy Gregg and Andy Forsberg. And I got to throw in Sean Becker as well. Sean and Andy Forsberg at Chico. Andy Gregg, Andy Forsberg at Placerville. So those two guys, man, they're good. They've been around forever. They're really good at what they do, and they're aggressive, and they're out there trying to win literally every lap. So they're very, very good guys, good buddies of mine, and they're always in contention for the win. So if I'm gonna win, I have to beat those guys for sure.
What is your plans for the rest of the 2016 season?
We're gonna finish out the Civil War season. Obviously finish out the Placerville season. Hopefully we get the championship there. We're really close in the Civil War championship. We're only about 10 points behind Andy Forsberg. Finish out the Chico Silver Dollar Friday night point races, and then run the big shows like Gold Cup and Fall Nationals, Trophy Cup, hit and miss a bunch. But yeah, definitely finish out the point seasons and hopefully end up with a few championships.
Do you have any plans set out for next year?
As of right now, no, I don't. Probably looking like the same schedule. We've been talking every year about Knoxville, and we may get the opportunity to do that next year. It's really up in the air right now, but I think if we're gonna do it, next year is looking like the year to do it.
Where would you like your racing career to go, as in racing series and, well, pretty much racing series?
Well, I figured my chances at becoming a professional race car driver is kind of not there anymore. So I've realized that I still love the races. I can't give it up. So it's hard to be, say like you're not going to become a professional race car driver and still go out there thinking, I'm going to win. I don't care who's, showing up the racetrack, I can beat them, right? So I like what I'm doing now. I definitely would love to travel more. I would like to get a full season like on the ASCS National, or even like half the World of Outlaw season, or even the All-Star, something like that, to where I could really show what I'm capable of, and just a little bit more traveling instead of just staying on the West Coast.
I remember a couple years ago, it was the non-wing portion of the Gold Cup, and you raced a non-wing car. Would you like to try that again, or maybe a different car like a midget, or any different kind of car would you like to ride?
Yeah, so right out of go-karts, I actually tested a midget down in Arizona for Ellis Race Cars, and I drove a midget in Prescott Valley, and then I went into Chili Bowl actually one time and finished like 10th in the C main, and then I actually practiced in a super late model up in Shasta Speedway. So I've got a little bit of different cars under my belt, and I was lucky enough to have Clark Riolo as my crew chief, who was also a non-wing crew chief as well. And he was able to put my car together as a non-wing car to give me a little bit more experience, because obviously non-wing is fun. It's definitely difficult. I did not realize how hard it was. For some reason I could not get the rear tires on the ground. Every time I got on the gas, they just lit up. So I definitely need a little bit more practice in that. I would love to give it another go. But yeah, I really like the wing racing, but if I got an opportunity to run a midget again, I would love to do Chili Bowl, and even a couple of non-wing shows would be fun.
That's going to wrap up our show today. Thank you, Mason.
Yep, thank you for having me. I appreciate this night. It was really fun.
Today's show has been presented by Bill McAnally Racing's Napa Auto Care and Kevin Scherer Designs.